Hi, everybody. I actually have a script. Today is, and that's the wrong notebook. This is the right notebook. Today is National Cerebral Palsy Awareness Day, March 25th, 2023. Now, a lot of people wouldn't be aware of that. Cerebral palsy isn't something some people think about on a daily basis, but it's something I do think about on a daily basis as I'm directly affected. I have cerebral palsy. I was born that way. So it's Cerebral Palsy Awareness Day, and I wanted to do a little speech about cerebral palsy and talk to you a little bit, maybe give you some anecdotes from my life. Cerebral palsy, or CP for short, is a static neurological condition or brain damage. It can be caused in pregnancy, in childbirth, or shortly thereafter. If cerebral palsy occurs after 28 days of birth, this is called acquired cerebral palsy. My cerebral palsy, this is from my facts. My cerebral palsy came in when I was born. I was born at 7.5 months, and my mom breech birth. She was home alone. I have another video. I'll try to link it in the description that talks about my birth. But that's how I acquired cerebral palsy. I had lack of oxygen to my brain because I was born so early, and I was born at home in the bathroom without medical assistance. And I think Mom said it was like 4 hours before they got me to a hospital because the hospital was 2 hours one way out of where we lived. We lived in Christmas Valley, Oregon at the time. So everybody's reasons for having CP aren't the same, but you can't be an adult and then acquire CP. It's brain damage, lack of oxygen to a developing brain. So if your brain's already developed, you're in the clear. CP is usually diagnosed around age 1 or 2. Now, I was lucky. They knew from the outgo that I had CP, so Mom didn't have to wonder, why is my kid not hitting some of her developmental milestones? She already knew that might happen. A lot of parents, they're not that lucky. They wonder for years, what's going on with my child? And struggle until they finally get a diagnosis, and then they've got to wrap their heads around it. My child's not this perfect, normal thing I thought they were, and I think Mom was really lucky there because she knew from the word go, this is what your kid has, and she accepted that and was able to go on. So I don't know where the blessing lies with there, but I think it does lie with knowing pretty quick what was going on. CP is actually a brain disorder. Cerebral palsy is actually an umbrella term. Now, an umbrella term is a term that's used for a group of disorders, for example. It's like an umbrella. There's a lot of things underneath it. So CP can be a umbrella term with a lot of other disabilities underneath that qualify as cerebral palsy. Cerebral, meaning brain, and palsy actually means movement. So cerebral palsy is a disorder with brain and movement. Your brain is affected and it affects how you move the body. Look at it this way. My computer motherboard isn't quite running quite right, so the signals aren't getting to the computer quite like they should from the motherboard. That's another way to look at it. I can honestly tell people I'm brain dead. There's actually a spot in my brain that shows up on exams as a black spot, and it is the brain dead part of the part of my brain that's actually dead. Then around that is damaged brain tissue, and then the normal. So sometimes, like my seizures, that's coming out of the damaged brain. It's trying to work, but it can't work at its full capacity. It doesn't mean I'm an idiot. A lot of people with cerebral palsy are incredibly intelligent. Just, I'm one of the lucky few that can communicate. And there's more of us that can communicate out there, but some people, they can't. There are 17 million people worldwide. 800,000 of those are in the United States alone with cerebral palsy. Think about how many people that is. There are 4, I'm going to say, some people say 3, I'll say 4, basic types of cerebral palsy. There's spastic cerebral palsy. This is your most common, with 80% of the sufferers of cerebral palsy having spastic CP. There's also this is characterized by muscle stiffness, walking hard to walk, scissored motion gait when they walk. Instead of you walk one foot in front of the other, they tend to kind of, if you look at someone who has CP, we kind of tend to scissor or walk, or like I do, I go like that, so my legs make a half circle. Instead of bending the knee and coming forward through, my legs actually go in a half circle to create walking motion. There's dyskinetic. I apologize if I said that wrong. This is a problem controlling movement of hands and feet. Sometimes the face and tongue are affected, and these are a lot of your people that have trouble communicating in this category. And they also have jerky movements, like that. But when the face and tongue and mouth is affected severely, it can cause problems with communication. So don't think just because they can't communicate, they're not intelligent. Sometimes you just can't get your words out. There's ataxic. Ataxic is coordination and balance, unsteady walking, hard time with quick movements. They can't do quick movements. Or there's my kind, which is mixed cerebral palsy. People with mixed cerebral palsy have more than one group type of symptoms. So, like for me, I have spastic and ataxic. So I'm considered mixed cerebral palsy. And I did have some dyskinetic. I was in speech therapy when I was in school, in elementary school, because people couldn't understand my THs and my Fs and my S's and my Vs. They couldn't understand me sometimes when I talked. So, which I always was really confused by. I understood me just fine. Why couldn't they? It's just, sometimes, especially when you're a kid, you don't think that at first, you don't consider there's something wrong with you. You can understand yourself just fine. It's one of them learning experiences where, oh my gosh, I'm different. There are many myths surrounding cerebral palsy, one of which, and the most prevalent one, is that it's just a child's disease. It's not. I cannot get better. I cannot fix my brain cells. They will not regrow new brain cells. It will be a lifelong diagnosis. It is not just for children. Although a lot of the research stops at 18 years of age, and people are just starting to realize they need to research adult with cerebral palsy, and there is research being done. That's the biggest myth, I think. That, and I've been told, oh, you can grow out of it. Or I've been told that if I was anointed with holy oil, that I could pray my way out of it and become normal. I feel sorry for the people that think that. Not me. I am normal. I'm my normal. If they can't accept that, I'm sorry. Bye. And the sad thing is, one of them was my grandfather. He thought if he anointed me with holy oil and we both prayed enough that it would go away. That's not the case. this is a brain injury. This is not a disease you can catch. I can't give you CP by touching you on the arm. And that's where a lot of the difficulties and the myths surrounding this kind of disability, see, now got me doing it, comes in. People see it as a disease, exactly that. You can't cure this. You can't, there's no miracle cure going to make your kid better, except acceptance. You can have surgeries and stuff to mitigate the symptoms of the disorder, but you can't cure it. Inclusion is the best medicine for someone with CP or anyone who's disabled. Don't treat them any differently than you treat any other kid or any other adult. Parents, this message is directly to you. Best thing you can do for your child with cerebral palsy is expect good things and don't treat them like they're disabled. Don't treat them like a baby. My mom had to teach me how to get in a 2-door car. She stood out in the driveway and I tried to get in and she'd catch me when I fell backwards, put me on my feet and try again until I don't really remember very much about it, but there are other instances when I remember my mom teaching me things that I needed to know until we found a way that I could do it. You have to do that too. Parents, the best thing you're going to teach your kids is find your own way, your own unique way of doing whatever you want to do. Don't treat them like they can't do anything else everybody else can do, because they can. But if you believe in them, that's the best medicine you can ever give your child, is believe in them. Teach them to believe in themselves. You're not always going to be there. Straight talk. You're not always going to be there. And I, for one, feel much better when I can be independent, because I was taught to be. My mom didn't expect anything any differently from me than she did from my older sister. It's just I had to find a way of my own to do things. And that's what she taught me. That's what she taught my sister. I remember when I was 5 years old and I had my first surgery. My sister she got a rope. I think she got it from my grandfather. And she knotted it up. Or it was an old jump rope or something. And she knotted it up. Big knots. And she gave it to me and she said, "This is your homework. When I get home from school, you got to have this knot undone." It was fun for me. It gave me, unbeknownst to my sister, it gave me ability to practice using my fingers and my hands. She would lay down with me on the floor and put her feet against my feet. So we were sitting like this, laying on the floor with our feet together. And she'd say, "Push me," so that I could push with my legs to move her. And it was just a game to me, but it helped me physically. And, my sister and my mom, my grandfather, and then later my stepfather, when he came, they never treated me like I was disabled. That's the biggest gift you're going to give that kid. So on National Cerebral Palsy Awareness Day, our ribbon color is green. It's a lighter green, but our ribbon color is green for National Cerebral Palsy Awareness. And just think about the blessings that you have. If you don't have cerebral palsy, that's wonderful. But if you do, or someone you know does, don't you give up, because you're wonderful too. The world just hasn't figured it out yet. They will. But you got to give them time. The world's a little slow sometimes. So we got to make allowances. But don't you make an allowance for yourself. If someone else is ignorant or misunderstanding, or they treat you awful, forgive them. Because you're worthy. You're not broken. Your kid is not broken. They're just them. Bye, guys.